Hey, keeping the Polynesian thing going as we were just talking about in the last video. This of course hit me with the suggestions how the Samoans got started up in the NFL, which is so interesting because if you think of another, they're the only other race, black, white, and Samoans. You know what I'm saying? And a couple of Hispanic last name kind of people too, being primarily from Mexico and stuff like that, maybe. But um, man, I always wondered too, like when did it crack off? Who was the scout that took that? You feel me? Hawaiian Airlines flight down there, and maybe to American Samoa, and maybe to Tonga, and started realizing, damn, these dudes are kind of clean. Let me I wonder who it was, man. So let's peep this video real quick.
The game of football is filled with all types of diversity.
I love
mean,
that
my
shit,
favorite
bro.
type is the
I
body
love
diversity, where you've
the
got
haka.
guys like
I
kickers,
love that shit.
defensive linemen, and fullbacks all playing the same sport, which gives everybody at home a chance to look on the field and say, hey, I can do what that guy does because he looks like me. But amongst this diverse population, we do get some crazy outliers, like with a population that makes up just less than 1% of the US population, rises above to be one of the biggest outliers in the history of the National Football League and the history of all sports in general. Like how there is not a group of people who have risen above a demographic number in a
Do y'all remember Ray Halou? Damn that nigga. Because I was gonna say, damn, they're only usually defenders, of course, big boys, and quarterbacks very rarely. I had never seen really a Polynesian receiver, and I never seen a running back. But Ray Halou, that dude was clean for that one season. Sorry, let me go.
American football.
Just came to my mind.
The Samoans.
Samoan youngsters grew up how we grew up. They grew up hard.
It's expected of you that once you wear the tattoo, that you are well versed before I saw more of the way of life.
I told him.
And Pat McAfee, you are wrong, by the way. When you try to make that all-white team and you guys said the Samoans are with y'all, hell no. Boy, the Samoans are riding with the black side, and you know that, Pat. So don't try to take the Samoans, bruh. Heck no, it's over for that. You could take maybe the Hispanic players and maybe the Aussie kickers, but y'all ain't taking the Samoans, bruh. Heck no. They ride. You heard what he just said? They came up hard, you feel me? It ain't easy. These boys ain't have no private schools.
Once you put on your football equipment, automatically you turn into a lion. Turn into a lion that's chasing a deer to eat.
I think football for Polynesians, they're just built for it. They're built for physical,
Damn, I miss
compact
Buckner, man.
sport.
Turns out the South Pacific was raising football talent before there was football.
Now, before we dive
Love it.
into the extensive history in their NFL, first we have to understand why they exist as an anomaly. Well, first and foremost, to be an NFL player, there is a genetic piece, and Samoans check off every genetic marker. Known for sending over mainly offensive and defensive linemen due to the fact that their average height for the men is 6 foot 1 inches. That's
Hey.
the average. And on top of that, they come over thick as tree trunks, densely packed with muscles, quick, athletic, and intuitive. But as you probably know, the genetic key, while incredibly important, isn't really what makes a good athlete. How many guys with insane builds do you know that don't have what it takes between the ears to get it done on the field? And it's arguably the most important part of the anomaly. And oh my god, I haven't even told you the anomaly. Well, get this. A child born to Samoan parents are 56 times, not 50% more, 56 times more likely to make it to the NFL than anybody born to a set of other parents. If you wanted me to put that another way, the population that makes up a whopping 0.07% of the US population makes up an active 3% on the NFL rosters. And why is this? Well, let's get back to that other piece. It's a very important word, or culture. You see, the Samoan culture is one
you don't
that
got the
is
Samoans on your
perfect
team, you're
combination
done.
of humility, family values, respect, discipline mixed with the warrior traditions that bring them to be more ferocious and have tenacity and a level of fearlessness that isn't seen very commonly. I mean, you see these guys play and you watch them dominate on the field,
Mikey
and then
Body,
you go
man.
catch them in an interview and they're just soft-spoken, down to earth, humble as can be people. And I think somebody said it perfectly when they said that Samoans were breeding perfect football players and just waiting for the game to be invented. And then when football was invented, it wasn't too long before the Americans Samoans founded. In 1945, the Washington Redskins in fact picked up the first Samoan player, Al Lalotai, at the rightful position of offensive guard. He played one season with the Skins before heading over to the All-American Football Conference, where he played for the Los Angeles Dons, opening the pathway for others like himself to find their way into the league. In fact, in 2016, he was inducted into the Polynesian Hall of Fame for being the first to break the barrier. And from there, it was mostly offensive and defensive linemen that would come over because they had an uncoachable skill: size. And when I say offensive,
I thought he was going to say strength.
Were a big part
Strongest
of
cats I've ever been
production,
around.
I'm talking about from the population of people that collectively have the same amount of people in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Yeah, you know it's a real bustling city. They have produced 9 first-round picks on the offensive and defensive linemen alone. That includes Detroit Lions legendary defensive lineman Luther Ellis, who was drafted 20th overall in 1995 to give them a defensive rookie of the year and 2 Pro Bowl appearances.
Nice.
There's also Mike Upati, who was taken 17th overall in 2010 to the 49ers, who had 2 All-Pro seasons and 4 Pro Bowl appearances as well, while playing for both the Niners and the Cardinals. Or how about DeForest Buckner, who was drafted 7th overall?
He's half black though, guys,
and who
but
has
still,
produced
which
3
makes him
Pro
even
Bowl
more
appearances
crazy.
and 2 All-Pro seasons, while being a key contributor on the Niners' 2019 Super Bowl run, and is now tearing things up for the Colts. And I'm sure you can't forget about Penei Sewell, drafted 7th overall.
Yeah,
who was not only
Penei's good. His
blocking
brother's
the
good
Lions
too.
Quarterback Jared Goff, but occasionally catching passes for him while being a key part in that turnaround.
Hey.
And every name I just mentioned are just offensive and defensive linemen of Samoan descent who were drafted in the first round and have won an All-Pro or Pro Bowl award. And we're already getting so many insane names. And as you know, we're just scratching the surface. So after Al Lalotai entered the league, he was followed by the first ever drafted player of Samoan descent, Jim Nicholson, by far the easiest to pronounce name of this video. And he went in the 9th round to the Chiefs in 73.
He must have
back
been
when the
half
draft
black
was
also.
entirely too
Nicholson.
long. He played offensive tackle for the Chiefs for 6 seasons, which is a pretty healthy NFL career. And in his 6 seasons with the Chiefs, he would see the next 3 Samoan milestones get hit, which was when Terry Tatolo would become the first linebacker drafted in 1976 when he went in round 13 to the Eagles, followed by the first ever Samoan player to go in the first round in Wilson Faumina, who was actually a defensive lineman. And he had a solid playing career of 5 seasons with the Falcons, and it was mostly the guy drafted after him in 1978 who would move the needle arguably a little bit more, as Mosi Tatupu was drafted in the 8th round to the Patriots. And what was
running
the big
back.
deal?
There you
Well,
go.
he was a running back,
See?
further pushing that Samoan people weren't just sending over lumbering behemoths
Exactly.
to play offensive and defensive
See?
line, but more importantly, in 1986,
I've never
Mosi
seen a
would get
receiver,
switched
though.
to play fullback, where he'd get 71 carries for 172 yards, 15 catches for 145 yards, and was blocking guys into the dirt, which means at the end of the season, he would become the first Samoan to earn a spot on a Pro Bowl roster. But the year after Mosi was drafted, the highest drafted Samoan would be taken by the Cincinnati Bengals as they pick up Jack Thompson, 3rd overall in the draft. But the other special part about it was he was the first quarterback of Samoan descent to play in the NFL. The other special part about this whole thing was that this was the first draft that would have 2 Samoans go in the first round, as Manu Tuisosopo would get picked up by the Seahawks in the 18th pick. That means a group of people that once again made up 0.7% of the US population just took up 6% of the first round picks that year. And while neither of these guys would get All-Pro or Pro Bowl recognition, it wouldn't be long after until another Samoan would
quarterback's
be on
kinda
a
small.
Pro Bowl, with Jesse Sapulo making the roster twice with the Niners in 93 and 94, notably as he helped
Super Bowl winner.
Steve Young on his Super Bowl campaign.
Yes,
The
sir.
second Super Bowl winning Samoan, right behind the aforementioned Tuia Sosopo, who won it with the Niners as well when he was traded to them in 1984. But the Samoan who would win the most Super Bowls was actually about to be picked up in 85, as Mark Tuini would get picked up as an undrafted free agent to the Dallas Cowboys and would
Whoa, how'd you get your teeth so white?
You gotta use the right toothpaste.
Dr. C?
stay with them through 3 Super Bowl victories, as he was a key contributor on the line that protected Troy Aikman.
His wife, actually, they have a football life, which is like a documentary about a football player. They choose one subject and then just go for an hour about him. Usually when they're about to go to the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. But when they were called the Great Wall of Dallas, and the beginning of a football life about them was his wife speaking, Tululi wife. So that's what's up.
But throughout the rest of the 80s, there was a Samoan picked up in every single draft, with 3 going in 86, 1 in 87, 1 in 88, and 89. But in 1990, perhaps
He
one
looked
of
like
the most
Rikishi Al.
important Samoan players ever was drafted. As in the first round, pick 5, the San Diego Chargers would select linebacker Junior Seau.
R.I.P., bro.
He would be absolutely
Monster,
amazing.
man.
After his Defensive Rookie of the Year campaign in 90, he would be voted a Pro Bowler every single year for 12 years straight.
Wow.
He would be in the Defensive Player of the Year running 4 times and selected as a first-team All-Pro player 6 times. He went by the Tasmanian Devil, and if you ever had a chance to watch him play, you understood. He was fast, he was hard-hitting, he was playing with a mixture of passion and ferocity that was just not common. He not only became the face of the 90s Chargers, but the face of San Diego as he helped lead the Chargers to the 1994 Super Bowl where they'd lose to the 49ers. But now, there had only been 20 Samoans in the league before him, and they had already...
He went again later on in his career with the Patriots, when the rare ones they lost.
The University of Miami would pick up a young man by the name of Dwayne Johnson, who would play for them, and we'll just circle back around to him later to see what he gets into. Why was I saying Junior was so important? Is that after he was drafted, we would see a notable uptick in how often teams would pick up Samoan players, with a minimum of 2 players making it onto a roster every year from 93 to 99. As we got our first specialist on there, with Morris Unitoa going to Philly as a long snapper, as well as our first tight end, with Itula Millie going to Seattle. But as we headed into the turn of the century, we were about to get one of the greatest players on this list. 2001 would see a couple more Samoans get drafted, as well as 2002. But 03 would give us a run on the position, with Gabe Reed going undrafted. Lauville Sape would get drafted in the 6th round. Wayne Hunter and Vince Manawai would go into the 3rd. Pisa Tinoi Samoa went in the 2nd round, but the crown jewel of that draft, the reason I went from undrafted to 1st round instead of vice versa, and the reason you're on the edge of your seat waiting for the name I'm about to say, because the person I'm building tension for is coming in at the 16th pick of the 2003 draft.
Damn, nigga had 6
Pittsburgh
picks and 3 were for
Steelers
touchdowns.
select Troy
Senior year in college.
Safety.
This
and
boy.
Holy hell did that pay off. Helping lock down their rock solid defense in the early 2000s, the Steelers had ended up winning 2 Super Bowls, and he is often considered to be one of the best safeties in the history of the game. Often referred to as one of, if not the most intuitive football player all times, the way he played the game was unlike anything else we had seen. It's like he was in the minds of the people he was playing against. He was timing snap counts, he was running routes for wide receivers, he was making incredible play after incredible play. The joke was always that 71% of the world was covered with water, and the other 29% was covered by Troy Polamalu. And when you watch the play, that was evident.
funny.
So now just 45 Samoans have been in this league, and 2 have been on the greatest of all time conversations for a position group. But the following draft year, there would be 2 more Samoans drafted in 2005, would get us notably Lofa Tetupu, who would be a 3-time Pro Bowler and first-team All-Pro in his career. But from here on out, we would just see Samoans burst out the seams entering the league. In fact, from 2006 to 2016, there would be an insane 31 Samoans drafted, with a whopping 5 of those winning All-Pro and Pro Bowl recognitions. That means if you drafted a Samoan during this time, you had a 16% chance of drafting a Pro Bowler. And the best Pro Bowl drafting percentage ever was 14%. And while these numbers may get lost because Samoan can seem like such a broad term, let me just change it to the fact that if you drafted somebody from the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, you would get these results. And that may open your eyes a bit, because what I'm getting at is there are states with triple the population that don't see draft results like this. And obviously in the last 6 years, it hasn't slowed down, like the breakout wide receiver Puka Nacua or Panay Sewell helping the Lions turn around. We also have seen more and more quarterbacks coming through, like Tua Tagovailoa, or in 2015, they would get their first ever Heisman Trophy winner in Marcus Mariota. And that Dwayne Johnson guy from Miami, well, he didn't go pro in football, but he became quite a big wrestler, and his contribution to football was actually starting a spring league in the XFL, as well as helping with the merger of the XFL and USFL to keep those leagues alive, which has given more opportunities to players than probably any individual player has done before. All in all, across the entire history of the NFL, no population has been more suited to produce NFL talent than the Samoan people, and the impact they've had on the game is nothing short of incredible. So if you enjoyed this quick little history lesson, consider subscribing, and peace.
Man,
I told him, once you put on your football equipment, automatically you turn into a lion. Turn into a lion that's chasing a deer to eat.
Man, wow. Isaac Punts. Great video, bro. You know what I mean? On everything. Thank you for all that great information, bro. I've always wanted to know who was the first ones. Now, obviously, could easily Google it, but what's the fun of that, y'all? When you can have a great documentarian like this, you know what I mean? Put in that good work, man, and me help him put it out to the masses. But man, another great video, another great reaction. Isaac Punts, go get that guy a follow, man. Give your boy a follow. New hairline coming soon. Peace.